Yeah, I've loved horses all my life. I started riding when I was a small child, messing around on a small, round, fat pony that kicked quite a bit and had a rather nasty temperament. I learnt how to endure being bitten on the arm and not to lose my temper, because that made no difference. You just had to be careful and sensible. I hacked, did all the pony club things, apple bobbings, bending races, and I was very competitive, I'm afraid, so I wasn't too bad at it. And then I got better ponies, as it were, and got keener and keener. I started doing show jumping and really loved that, and pony club 1-day events and cross-country courses and hunting as well. And then I got really serious and became, for a time, a professional show jumper, and I rode really very high-quality horses. I mean, my proudest moment in life, you know, forget all the other stuff that one does professionally, is that I was the South of England show jumping champion, and I beat a then very famous show jumper in the jump-off called Alan Oliver, who used to ride for Britain. And even my name was talked about as potentially, you know, doing all of that. Anyway, I then, when I reached the age of about 23, had to make a big choice. I was riding full-time, 6, 7, 8 young horses a day, flat out, doing all the shows, and in the winter training them and preparing them, and discovering, by the by, because people do get frustrated with horses, you can get cross, you're not human if you don't get cross, that horses are not humans, and if you treat them like humans and shout at them, you actually, they don't even understand, but you get just as far as you get by shouting at children. It makes no impact at all. It's just not the right. You have to find clever ways of doing things. They're strong. They're not hugely intelligent, but well treated, they will give you of their absolute best, any horse. And if they've been badly treated, you can still bring them round with kindness and sensible care. Now, of course, if they're really badly treated, it's very, very difficult indeed, and they can be very dangerous. But I felt I learnt, you know, not as much as anyone, but as much as I could conceivably learn about how to understand a vast variety of animals and how to try and get the best out of them. This was serious business then. You had to get the best out of them. You were in competitions, and you had to deliver them jumping decent-sized fences and then selling them on to people who you hoped would be not only paying good money for them, but also having success with them. And in that process, I mean, love is an odd word. You don't love a horse like you love a human being, but you can have very powerful affections for a horse. It was always thought to be a rather girlish thing to love horses, and there were many more, when I was young, many more girls doing it than boys. Actually, it was quite nice for a boy, because it meant you met lots of girls. Anyway, that's slightly by the by. But I remember very well when I felt miserable. I had this thoroughbred mare who I'd had as she'd been a failed racehorse, and I was about 14, 15. She's about 15, 3 hands high, and she was quite difficult. She was only a 3, 4-year-old, and I had to try and bring her on. This is before I'd become a professional rider. And if I felt miserable, I used to go out, put my arms around her neck, and just bury my head in her neck. And that wonderful smell of a horse when they'd been on grass, I spend all my time with, and they like it too. You put your head close to their head, and they're breathing out this lovely grass smell, and you're going, yeah, it's the elixir of life. So I acquired affection for horses, and I had a genuine skill, which I still have. But when I reached the age of 23, I decided that I either had to do it properly and full-time, or I had to do other things that were important. And for a whole range of reasons no need to go into, I went into the other things and stopped riding altogether until I reached the grand old age of about 40, 50, I think. And then I started again, and the intriguing thing was that it was a bit like falling off a bike and getting on the bike again. I could ride, and probably, you know, I'd fall more heavily. And I've had quite a few falls in my life, and I've always been lucky. I've sort of never broken anything. I've always been quite good at sort of going and crumpling so that you get a softer landing. And I took up hunting again and went hunting. I went into some show jumping competitions. I think it's quite funny going to show jumping. Everyone else in the show jumping competitions was, you know, a quarter my age, and they saw this fuddy-duddy coming in and trying to ride. And I was really proud because I got into the jump-off in one of these competitions, and I did pretty well in the jump-off. I think I got a second prize against the clock, so I was quite pleased. And I am just at the point, because of the busyness of life, not for any other reason, of saying I can't keep horses now. It's just too complicated. But it's a very big decision for me to say that. And I look forward to going on riding because I feel, the same kind of fitness. I think I can focus well enough. And the great thing about riding horses is that you can ride until you drop, really. I mean, you can't do the same things. You can't ride the Grand National, but you can enjoy horses. And that's why I feel so strongly about the way in which horses are treated. I feel strongly about the way animals are treated in any case. I'm not a sentimentalist. I'm not against horses or other animals being put down or being slaughtered. I'm not against people eating animals for food. I'm against animals being kept in appalling conditions. And I think with horses, which are a luxury, let's face it. For some people, they're a very big luxury, but if you're on a low income, they are a huge kind of, you do anything, give up lots of other things. It always astonishes me that people sometimes treat horses so badly. And I find it difficult to understand. I like to think that it's ignorance, but sometimes it's indifference, and sometimes it clearly is. You read these awful accounts. It is a sort of vindictiveness or a cruelty, as if I don't know what's going on in the head, as if people are taking out their own anger and pain and frustration with life on this poor, wretched animal called the horse, which has been through the centuries the great friend of our species, the human species. It's for these reasons that I think we very much need an organisation like the ILPH, which campaigns for, fights for these wonderful animals, the horse.